So I'm finding all kinds of things. Yeah.
Do you have that handwritten note?
I think it's in there.
Oh, okay, so this is your packet.
Yeah, that's y'all's homework at some point,
Homework,
basically.
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I can hear him on here. Peggy.
Hey, Joe.
Hey.
Hi, Joe.
Are you gonna make? I'll go check my phone. Make sure you can hear me.
Oh,
Real.
yeah, I found this, but this still would need a lot of work, but
Got all the pictures that Bonnie sent. And the ability to get on.
you know, that's not it.
Just FYI.
Oh. Isn't that interesting? Are we ready, buddy?
And just one.
Well, I haven't heard from Courtney. If
Good
you come in,
morning.
You know, problem.
I think, Mallory, did you reach out to him?
yeah, I
She just texted.
texted him.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, I don't recognize that street, but I guess
May
it
not.
must be Mayfield's. Mayfield's,
Back of
Very nice.
13.
Nine. Ninth doesn't go all the way through.
13019.
Is that the end of the upside down boat?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, it's over there. If you go past, you
Okay.
know where it is? Past the post office on that street behind it, you just go straight and there's a trailer park in there, but it's in there.
Okay.
That's one of the 7 wonders of Port Aransas.
Yes, 8.
Or 8. Because we did that
But
one
we
time
need-
and we found it and it was like, oh, okay, that's it. It's an upside down
Cool.
boat.
We could add a whole lot more. They just didn't have a lot of stuff.
Live and learn, man.
That's where on the Chaplain map. it's all around.
It's pretty cool though, isn't it?
I have copies of everything that Barney sent. I've got copies of the resolution that we can show up on the screen if needed, just FYI. We're ready to go whenever you
He's
guys
waiting
are.
on a concrete truck. Okay,
Okay.
all right, we do have, we do have a quorum.
We're good. I would hate to be waiting in this heat. For
I hate to be pouring concrete.
Yeah, I do.
I'd rather be
Pouring
waiting.
Yeah. Hang on. Okay. All right, then.
Oh, the 8 wonders.
Okay, I'm gonna call the Old Town Preservation Advisory Board meeting to order at 3:06. Okay, citizens' comments and reports. So I don't believe anybody signed up. All right. Items for consideration, number 3. 3.1, discuss and take action on minutes from the June 21st, 2022 and May 10th, 2022 meetings.
So we don't have either one of those meetings minutes. The first meeting minutes are done, but there's a kind of a snafu with our software system that doesn't have you guys all loaded. So we can't put together a final report of that meeting yet. The other meetings, I just have simply not had time to do the minutes from
All
that
right.
meeting.
Rough.
Well, we'll just wait till,
For what it's worth, though, our city secretary's in the same boat with the number of minutes and in the, we do have, there is a system out there that is a translator that takes, that will help scribing and it looked like at our budget workshop that the council, I think, was strongly going to consider that request from us to make it a system that is shared to help us get these minutes prepared a little faster and updated. So
It's an
Not-
intensive process. Is there any
Oh.
help we can get?
yes. Oh, yeah, I've
I'm sure.
done meetings before. It's, yeah. All right, well, we'll just do it next time. No worries. 3.2, discuss and take possible action to recommend an Old Town preservation boundary map. All right. We had the map that we were looking at originally
Did we
from
leave one
last
out?
time. What, Barney?
Did you leave out 3.3?
No, we haven't gotten to 3.
Not yet.
No, I
We're
only
on
got
3.2.
two.
Okay,
We're the map.
I got,
Do we have
sorry.
So this is the
Where's it?
resolution, and the map from 2017.
Is this it?
This is the 27. This is what the boundaries are right now.
17.
Well, that was the resolution.
Right, but
Boundaries.
that does,
That was the 2017.
that's the
Right.
boundaries presently.
And then there was a resolution and P and Z and from council in 13. And that map is
I've got that one as well.
is slightly different because it doesn't have that odd diagonal line on there. You know, the one that kind of cuts through and doesn't even use streets, and we're gonna need to be utilizing streets as a boundary. We can't just slash halfway through. And then there is even another map that I came across that kind of had certain areas with little X's. And that was kind of interesting, but they're all essentially the same, more or less. This one just is defined by streets.
Yeah, I'd like to define it by streets.
Yeah.
I think that's,
So I'm not going to waste time. I would like to make a motion that we ask council to adopt the 2013 map only because it does use the streets as with more definition, and that they adopt this as being the overlay zone for the Old Town Preservation District.
I'll
Is
second
that one?
That's the one that I've got up on the screen. Yep.
Right, this one.
Minus the green, right? Just everything that's outlined in blue.
No,
No,
with the green.
with the green.
With the green.
Because that was approved, added by council and approved.
I second the motion.
Okay, so let's discuss it before we vote.
Right.
So we're saying that we want to go down, because these streets are harder to see, that we want to go down Channel View and then cut across at the end of, let's see, I gotta see if I got a map that I can read this.
We dead end at, even though it's odd, but at UTMSI.
Right,
But and it is hard to read this one, but I think that this one does include all of Tarrant
yes, yeah,
and Channel View and East Street, which is very important because those streets were there. Now, if we're not totally sure, because all these maps have odd variations, but I do believe this one encompasses all those streets which were established and with structures. There was a lot of work done on this by previous groups. I've come across at least 5 now that have all worked on this for 20 years. We've wasted 20 years just trying to get this established, and now we just need to move this forward and let's get the overlay established so then we know what we're working with.
So with all your, for the record, with all your research, again, I'll just go back. Was there any discussion notes about the formula as to why that street, this street, that one, how they arrived at that boundary in those streets?
They went by maps. And they went,
established streets.
maps over the years. And in fact, in one of those, it was referenced with that 38, but 38, I think it's 36. But even that map, I think that what was going on there, because after we looked into it and I talked to Rick Pratt about it, and even he agreed, he said, yeah, I don't know why that happened. That line wasn't put in right on the 17 deal, because on the 13 deal, it is included.
It's attractive real estate.
It just, I don't know what happened there. Who knows what happened? But I after looking and doing a ton of paperwork research, those streets existed.
Well,
But, okay.
Avenue G, for instance.
But like Barney mentioned, a lot of the streets exist. I just didn't know if there was any other notes that we could add to the file as to why that street and not another one, if there was some methodology that they had.
well, if the minutes of the May 2013, it says in there that Rick Pratt presented the pop-up request to designate it. And it said that the boundary was derived by viewing old aerial photos of the town from the 1920s and 40s. So that is why, and then at the time, they had it just going to see, but then I guess it was Jim Price who wanted to put in the northern part of G. And so they added that on all the way out to G to be this. And then in 17.
Yeah, the minutes are there too, right here.
I might add that here in the preservation survey that Forday got done back in December of '06, like on Tarrant, one of the houses that it even has a picture of is what was the UTMSI house over there on Tarrant. And it calls it modern something. I'm sorry, I don't remember all the names of some of these. You know, there's Craftsman Bungalow, Tudor Revival influence and different things. They have a summer place, prairie style influenced on here, and then modern influenced house at the 700 block. And that's what was the UTMSI one. And it gives a definition that the modern influence is kind of a combination of different styles.
Anything about the origin?
And it says here though that was generally from the 30s to the early 50s, and then ranch became more prevalent after the 1950. And that's all in the
You saying people were
in
living-
the survey that they did back in '06. And it lists, you know, they have photos of some, but then it lists others on top of it.
Did you have a question, Barney?
Lean up so people hear you on the mic.
Or pull your mic down?
Are you saying there were people were living there? I mean, what was the origin of the UT house?
Oh, it
was
was
donated or
It was
inherited?
donated. It was donated. They inherited it.
Yeah. So is there anything about the date, the origin of it, the date of when it was built?
All I
Could be
have
so
right
lucky.
now, all I have is this particular
What?
reference. We might be, I mean.
It didn't
now-
say. In other words, it didn't say it
It
was
said from
built
the
in.
30s to the early 50s.
Yeah. Well, I believe the 30s, and I don't think Rick meant photos from the 20s and the 40s. I think what he said, or as a misprint, he's probably saying 30s and 40s.
Probably.
Because there aren't any,
They looked at stuff from the 20s too.
well, they may have some.
Aerial, what few
Yeah,
aerial.
I'd like to see those because I never saw anything before like 38,
I think
maybe.
they're at the museum.
Yeah, I'd like to see something from the 20s. But I mean, the 30s goes back a long ways, you know. So,
About 92 years.
yeah, I'm not sure, you know, right now we're trying to nail down the boundaries, but I'm not sure if we ever nailed down what Old Town is. I
Well,
mean,
that,
what it is, not where it is.
did you read your homework?
Oh, well,
Did you read any of the homework I gave you?
yeah, sure.
Okay, well,
Yeah, well, so
pretty
what,
clear that those guys worked really hard on nailing down what the Old Town boundaries were.
yeah, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, what is Old Town? What qualifies a piece of real estate to be included or to be called Old Town, you know? I don't think it's real important, but we're looking at where, and somewhere in there, there's a way to say what, you know, what is Old Town? So if the boundaries tell us what it is, then that's fine. I know we need the boundaries. And we're talking about Avenue G. Well, Avenue G was, it was in working order in the 30s. They were building, that's when the Gulf Beach courts were built. That's when my granddad's house on 12th and G was built in 33.
Mhm.
And there was activity there, and you're going up Felton's Courts and all those. There weren't too many tourist courts, but they were there. And there
Double
wasn't-
bar.
there
Double
wasn't-
bar was there and it's listed in here. And actually, I think there's a
Well-
photo in here.
Yeah, but it's not as old as the others, but it was there. So,
Well, but it's worth being preserved. It's been there long enough.
you mean double bar?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, sure.
I mean-
I'm including it, but I'm only saying that there wasn't much on Avenue G, but there were
Well, yeah, but
tourist
this is
courts
all,
and other stuff in the 30s.
here's one over here. That one was on Allister, remember? And some of that's not, I mean, some of that's gone, but this is Billmore's now. No, which one is it? I'm sorry, everybody keeps changing names. They're using stuff in here like the Big Kahuna, and I had to stop and go, where the heck was the Big Kahuna? Because
Liberty.
everything's,
Liberty Hall.
yeah, I remember it. Yes, exactly. But it's just funny because some of the names are kind of going back and trying to remember, okay, that used to be this.
No.
Tourist courts were
40s.
common from 1935 to 1965.
Tourist courts made the news when they had a tourist
Well,
court.
I think that's a generic meaning these
Yeah,
types of
well, they call them tourist,
villages. And what about, how long is Spanish?
they call them
village
tourist
there?
camps.
No,
70s.
No.
Yeah, because Masonite or the Mason block. But anyway, that is my motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second before us. Are we ready to vote?
Yeah, do we have any more discussion?
Anybody?
So
Yeah.
we're just saying the 2013 map as adopted by that city council is the map that we want the boundary to, our recommendation for the boundary.
Yes.
That was the
And- and
motion, yeah?
And did that include the green part that they had there?
Including the
Yes.
green part and the blue part.
Yes.
So motion is to adopt the blue and green portions of the 2013 map that was presented to city council.
Correct, correct.
What does that do for 12th Street?
It includes it.
It includes it. So are we voting?
We ready to vote? Yeah, all right. All in favor, say aye.
No.
Aye.
I think she wants to.
Yeah.
You want
we
to call the
need to
roll?
call-
Okay, call the roll.
Kathy Fulton,
Yes.
Barney Farley,
Yes.
Jill Broadnax,
Yes.
Pat Kuchenberg,
Yes.
Mallory Collette.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, great.
Cool.
All right, we have boundaries.
Yay! Woo, we got something accomplished finally. Yeah.
Well, you got a recommendation for a boundary.
We got a recommendation from them.
Yeah. How liberating.
Can we, so how does the process, Nicole, work from this point? Does it go to council at the next council meeting?
The recommendation for the boundary, I would say,
According to our setup, it's supposed to go to council.
Yeah,
Yes.
we,
but then it would,
yeah,
so
somewhere,
for
it's
them
got,
to
it's got to
approve
make
the
its way to
boundary,
the,
yes. And then they say, okay, then it's got to go through a zoning change, which eventually will go to planning and zoning and council, but all of those zoning things would have to be included.
right, at some point, they're going to want, I would suspect they're going to want to send it to the comprehensive plan folks that are working on the Old Town preservation piece of that goals and objectives of the comp plan. So it's got somewhere, it's got to have to, which is the whole city input opportunity. And so somewhere it's going to have to make its way there. So that'll be a council directive. We'll send it to council, and if they accept the boundary, then my guess is they'll direct us to forward that recommendation on as part of the, for further consideration to the,
With a list of proposed regulations.
well, we could,
No.
just the boundary right now. That's
Right
all.
now.
I just want to do the boundary
We
first.
wanted to get this, I know me, I wanted to get this boundary set before we even try to.
Okay, but it doesn't really set anything because you have to do a zoning change to make that an overlay zoning district. So they can approve, I mean, they can say, yeah, we're good with that, but it's, nothing's codified until you make that zoning change. So in essence, they're just kind of saying, thumbs up, good job, guys. Now there's a lot more work that needs to happen before this is an overlay zone.
Right.
Okay.
So, but let me, all right.
Because that's an ordinance.
Absolutely.
But I
You've
guess,
got the area where you want that overlay zone to
Yes.
be.
right.
Now, it doesn't have any,
Until,
there's nothing that it's doing
Right.
besides just being
Right.
that boundary for right now
Right.
until we go through the whole process of the zoning change.
So can they not by ordinance make that the boundaries? Here's my concern is it really isn't until it is an ordinance. You know, it's kind of, I
Well, the
mean,
way it's been so
Correct.
all this time, right?
And it can't be an ordinance without a zoning change. And there's a lot involved in a zoning change.
All right.
You have to have those regulations set. You have to do all the different notifications. It's got to go through.
Got to go
public
planning,
hearings at
zoning,
planning and zoning,
and then,
public hearings at council. So it's not just this recommendation is set.
it just starts the process. It starts
okay. Well,
the more formal process.
It's basically you're just asking council, hey, this is where we want to make the
Mhm.
lines. Are you good with this?
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
and then we'll go through the rest of the process.
Okay, right. All right.
yep,
Okay, 3.3, discuss possible Old Town preservation overlay zone regulations to encourage stabilization of Old Town.
interesting.
So,
Yeah.
has anybody thought about this? I mean, what I'd like to see is maybe by the next meeting that we come up with ideas for what we think some of the regulations and guidelines should be. Not this meeting, but the next meeting and start discussing them.
I'm good with that. The only thing I'm gonna input here is that starting in 2002 on all this stuff that I started digging through and digging up, it's really interesting. I don't know if people realize that there's at least 5 committees that have been created for this since 2002. One of the committees' name was PAC, PAC, Port Aransas Citizens, interestingly enough, go figure, not Port Aransas Conservancy. Anyway, but there's odd notes here and there from some of this stuff, and some of, like in this particular thing, and I'm only throwing this out there, I'm not saying this particular one said that this should be done in 4 ordinances: architectural elements, lighting, landscape, site planning. You know, and then it goes through details, but this was one of the committees. That was one of their suggestions at the time, and then it got into more detail. Another one, now this particular committee was apparently associated with the overlay district areas. That I'm a little confused about some of this, but they were calling it Central Business District at the time. But again, they were coming up with essentially many of the same things we've discussed over the course of several years about, you know, heights and lights. Again, this one, height, light, glass, exposure surfaces. Even gets into all utility lines being underground, roofs, dumpsters. I mean, it gets into, this one gets into other things, but it's got some points in there that are helpful, which is why I created a homework packet for everybody. This was an emergency ordinance done back in 2002, apparently. And this was done in response, apparently, to the certain stores that went in with a lot of glass frontage. And the emergency ordinance was just that. No more, I think it says here, 28 May 2002, the emergency ordinance essentially was that there would be no more full glass frontage on these places. So that was obviously a big concern. And then again, we get into another person on a different committee about, it was This one talks about heights and roofs and heights. I'm not saying I even want to start going down some of these roads, but it's interesting to see how much of some of what we've discussed was still very much evident in all of this for the last 20 years. And then in 15, there was another group apparently, or right before 14 and 15. And again, this one gets into the whole thing again about roofs, lights. I mean, all the themes here go, and here's a good one that y'all have got that this one's interesting. Height, glass, roofs, materials, lighting, landscaping, other, grandfathering. And they even talk about how do we grandfather. So I recommend that we all take some time. I'm still digging. These are some, Rick, your name is on this. These are some notes from a meeting. I think I narrowed it down to about 04 or so. And the only reason was because the hurricane that's mentioned in here was Hurricane Andrew. And I thought, when was Andrew? I had to ask somebody to.
That was after Andrew.
Yeah. So this
97.
was definitely before Katrina. And what I find interesting is, again, the same issues are being looked at here. That's what green, which cracked me up, green areas, landscaping, long-range plan versus quality of life, intelligent town planning, density, height, bright lighting, wetlands. Couldn't believe that was on here. Glass safety.
No big 3D structures?
What do we need to see as we go through? What do we see as we go through town? Clearly, this might have been an assignment. I'm unclear. And then it also has something about signage. I had to laugh when I saw Urban Engineering. I should say Jim Urban, but Urban Engineering's, it says urban here, and it has the old corpus number 8543101. And I just,
Phone number.
I know, but it doesn't have like cell numbers, So we know that, again, it talks about impervious cover, setbacks being green, grandfathering.
So did you make a packet for
I made-
Nicole?
Yes, Pat, no, I've got, Nicole, I'm going to give you this one. I seem to have run a little short on something.
Is this something you just brought and handed out, or do you have it digitally also? Did you send it, or did you just bring it?
Oh, no, I just now was able to
Okay.
make all these copies yesterday
Okay.
because I didn't get back to
Digital is always better for us, but I can.
I,
No worries.
Some of you have, like the resolution.
Sure,
yeah, I understand that.
no
but,
worries. That's okay.
Yeah, it's been a challenge just to get the get through some of this. And there's only 2 more big boxes I need to go through. Big boxes. Lots of papers.
I agree that almost everything's been brought up that could possibly be brought up as a way to do this thing. What we don't know is how to put it into effect. And obviously it's after 5 tries in 20 years, we're
Something like that.
starting all over again. So that's going to be our gauge of our success, is how do we boil all this down and get some things going that are that everybody's going to salute. So I'm confident that it can be done. Think all these things about house color. We have colors mentioned in there,
Actually, is it? Well, I didn't really.
and distill all that. I would be happy if we say, look, let's quit tearing down every building in town. It's got those 3 in a row buildings on Station, Station and White. Those houses are still there. One of them's for sale. If they buy it, they're going to tear it down. So I think one thing we can do is think twice before we tear down these old buildings. Well, how do you do that? You tell the owner, the new owner, said you can't do that.
Ah.
Mm.
So that's where the rubber's gonna hit the road. It's not like, we got plenty of ideas, but whose toes are we gonna step on? And so I think what I'm trying to say is, if we really want to do it, we really can do it. If it's that important. And I was in on 2 of these attempts. Where we were, man, I mean, the ideas were flowing, we had bike paths, we had, materials. It's funny to read in there what it says about materials. You must have these certain materials here. But now we're always reminded that the state has said you can't tell somebody what to build their building out of. But it's in there. And there's a whole lot about what stuff should look like. Well, new stuff, I really think we can influence what that looks like. And here's how I made it simple: was it should look more like a residence than a jail. That would be one place to start. I think it can be done. I just don't know how, And we don't need more ideas. We need, we need the proof that we can do it. We need the lawyers in on it and all that. And the desire to make that big effort, because we're stepping on people's toes. No matter what we do, we're stepping on a lot of big, important toes, And so that's going to decide whether we succeed in having an old town or not.
Well, it is about preservation.
Yeah. Well, for one, let's preserve what we got, crying out loud, because there's not a whole lot. You think when those handwritten notes there, that was back in the midst of time, that was at least 20 years ago, right? 15 or 20 years ago. There was a whole lot more to see in Port Aransas back then. And a lot of that's evaporated. A lot of stuff's been torn down that was perfectly good, etc. So if I was going to put something into action, I would say quit tearing down the old buildings. Yeah. Stop it. And like Shorty's people say, that place, well, if the termites quit holding hands, they'll fall down. Who cares? Pick it up, move it, fix it, build another at Shorty's around it. Yeah. If it's in dreadful shape, we'll fix it up. Shorty's especially, If Shorty's goes to the dump, then the whole town goes to the dump. So it's not like, here's how we're going to do it. It is, we have to do it. Or else just everybody go home and forget it. And so what I'm saying is it can be done. So let's look at it in that fashion.
Plenty of other communities have done it.
Yeah, and we're not reinventing the wheel. It's like a lot of other things, like the SDR thing and what have you. A lot of people have done it. They don't have our same circumstances. Maybe they got under it way early so they can do what they want. We don't have a whole lot of that. I would ask you two what your opinion is that we're late in the game and trying to make this, trying to make something out of this that's slipping away right in front of our eyes. For one reason, because it's late in the game.
I agree.
I would ask you.
Well, I mean,
I was asking you two if it's
yeah,
possible.
I mean, the one thing the concrete one thing you've said is, tearing stuff down. Well, that's a legal question. Personally, yeah, I think that becomes tough. Best way to preserve that from being torn down is for somebody else to buy it that wants to keep it. That's the easy but more difficult answer. Beyond that, it's just what tools do we have to, we have some tools to incentivize somebody from not doing that, restoring something. Problem is that some of this stuff unable, I mean, just not restorable. I mean, it's just shorties, I think they're gonna make a good effort. They want to.
Yeah, I think they ought
Mother
to
Nature and the gods will decide whether those termites stick it out or
Yeah.
not.
I think they ought to just set it there and then build the shorties around it. Then you'll have the new and the old shorties.
Right, I mean, but that's a decision fortunately that the property owner has made. He
Yeah,
wants to
property
do that.
owners, people with money and everything else,
Yeah,
yeah.
the trick is for those that don't want to do that. What tools do we have? One, to stop them. That's a legal question. And do we have
Absolutely.
strong enough tools to incentivize them to do that?
So what would you think the tools are to incentivize?
Well, I mean, really, we only have permitting fees and impact fees.
Which isn't a
Money,
whole lot.
which isn't a lot in the scheme of things when you've got a, property that's increased in value substantially, waiving.
You're talking maybe 10 grand.
Yeah, let's say
tops.
maybe 10
Maybe.
grand in permit fees and all,
On
but
a, but yeah, I mean, it's not enough.
Well, it's probably not feasible to do like tax abatement for a year, is it? I mean, that might be a
Not even
question
sure.
also.
Legal.
yeah, there's,
Actually, in here, in y'all's 2006 survey, it gives specific recommendations.
well, I'm sure people have said,
Uh,
look into it.
Well, this is from the historic, I mean, this was a historic survey.
Did you
It
say
gives-
the city paid for that?
Either Poplar or the city did, yeah.
Okay.
And it gives specifically, the city of Port Aransas should, and I'm not gonna read through all these, but I just counted some of these, well, not just counted, I needed to recount. But I think there were 12 structures, and I took out the ones that we know got, bit by Harvey. But 12 structures that potentially were eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. Now, it goes on to say to find, that if there are other places that would be that are likely could be part of this, then those should be added and I agree, there's a number of structures that are not in here that definitely could be added that would qualify.
But when
it
you say
also-
that though, why haven't we gotten there yet? Because that's your biggest tool, is get them designated as a
Because
state.
I
historical
think because
structure.
everybody keeps stopping it and running, personally me, whether it's a council, whether it's P and Z or whether it's whatever, keep in mind it's been going on 20 years. I don't know why, but I do know that this gives some excellent guidelines about how to get this done.
But
And
you
we
talk
have
about the groups.
failed, whether it's a councils then or whatever, have failed to push to get it done. And maybe they were relying on, I don't really know what they were, it's like, let's get another survey done and let's just toss it, which kind of, I think
But
is,
you talked about the people that were involved and they were good, committed people. I'm just trying to find out why. If there's a reason why, we just need to acknowledge it. If there's a chance, then acknowledge that. But to me, that's something that you either put to bed or you don't. And I don't know that
Well,
they did or didn't put it to bed,
it
is all I'm
doesn't
saying.
matter. It doesn't matter because this is where we are right now. And so where we are right now is we are trying to push this thing through and move on forward
Then
and not
somebody
worry about what happened.
Then
But we
that's what I'm saying.
got, we
why are
got the survey.
you arguing with me?
Rick, I'm sorry, I'm not even asking your opinion.
Barney
We got
asked
the
me what
sur-
we should to do. And so I was asking about that. If you don't want me to answer your question, then I won't. You jumped in.
I am saying we've got surveys and there's more that I'm going through and they are giving us an outline. We've got the chance now to push it through. It doesn't matter to me what
That's
didn't
not my answer.
happen
Do
then.
it. Let's get it done. Why the other groups didn't, I think is important to find out so you don't spend a lot of time.
I'm not
But
wasting
this
my
is
time
America.
finding out. I'm gonna waste my time moving forward.
Okay.
I'm not gonna step back.
That's the tool. Get them declared historic structures. You have a whole lot more tools at your disposal then.
What do we know about that? Because I hear like, well, we don't really qualify.
Yeah,
We don't
maybe,
really
maybe,
have any
maybe
foundation.
they did try to
for it.
move forward and they were stopped somewhere in the process, and maybe that's why it's important to kind of find out
Well,
what they did.
That's what I think,
Because
but
if they tried to move forward with it and something legally stopped them from doing that, if
Well,
we
that's
would
That's
just
sort
be
of
wasting our time if we're doing that
Yeah.
again. I just don't know enough about how they progressed
So y'all don't really know, I mean,
That was before- that
I
was
know
way
some really
before I was
committed
born.
people have tried, and I don't know why. Kathy's got boxes and boxes that she's gone through. Somewhere you would think that would be in there,
yeah.
that the state says no because the state says, give me this, maybe. Somewhere there should be a document there.
Well, should be pretty easy to figure it out. I mean,
That's what I would think. But
should
if
be
you want to
pretty
start
easy
from
figure it
scratch,
out.
but I think that's your tool, Barney. You asked me the question. That's one of your tools. Having something declared
Uh-huh.
and listed on the historical register protects it to a certain degree and gives cities the ability to tell somebody, sorry,
Right.
you're in a historical district, other rules apply. So that's a big tool.
All right, well, there you go. That's one thing right there.
Well, somewhere there should be the regulations as to what can be put on, listed on the National Register, because I know there's
Right.
dates, and then there's also if the house has been altered, so on and so forth, or if it still has original type of structure that it was built to be, those things. So does anyone want to try and find out by the next meeting what those items are?
Mhm.
It says right
Just something
here,
to-
the tarpon inn was listed on the historic register, and then it goes on to say that but it calls these high priority properties. And a high priority property, they were saying on it, then get the other ones registered is what it's saying. Then it says, so at least 6 of these right here need to go ahead and be added.
It says they may be eligible for listing.
Down on this one, right, go,
What page?
just above that. High priority properties should be designated as local landmarks, and 6 of those, in addition to the Tarpon Inn, may be eligible for listing in the National Register of Historic Places. And I do believe they are, and I do believe that there are some that are, a number of them that are not on here that do need to be on here. I'm kind of surprised, in fact, that they're not.
Can you see if there's anything about the Tarpon Inn?
I'm gonna give you,
Can you see if there is anything that you've got? I mean, if there's anything in all that regarding the Tarpon Inn, since it sounds like somebody has said that it is,
there's a little plaque.
There's a
in front of
plaque
it.
out front.
But that
but it's
doesn't-
not a state historical.
It says here it's a national. I think it's national,
Yeah,
not
it's a
state.
national. It's on the
I think
national.
there's a difference here. It's the state is a bit different, definitely, for the Texas Historical Association. That is a different type of designation as opposed to national. National, state, I'll take either one.
One probably trumps the other.
Not really.
Yeah,
And then it goes on to say enact a historical preservation ordinance that establishes a program for designating and protecting local landmarks and conservation districts. Consider the Tarpon Inn and other high priority sites. I'm just reading the highlighted part. High priority sites identified in the survey for designation as local landmarks also. Conduct additional research on surveyed neighborhoods for possible designation as local conservation district.
what's the date on this one?
06.
06, okay. Okay, so there was an attempt in 06 to get all this done. I think it just fizzled out,
Well, this was commissioned by Papa,
Yeah.
Right,
and I don't know why nothing, I don't know that anything went forward from it or not. I mean, I don't really know.
well, obviously not.
There was also another attempt, I remember, since I've been here in 2018 with some regulations that didn't get passed by council.
Right, yes.
Oh, but that was a bit different.
Well, we tried to do too much, and it was too specific.
But
So,
that's the only thing, 2018 is the only thing that I can think of since I've been here.
mhm. Yes, that's correct. Okay, well, we need to find out what it takes to get houses on the National Register.
Okay.
Um,
The
what is-
national or the state?
Or either one. I mean,
I
You probably
think
need to find out
national is,
both information about both, I would.
yeah. But national is probably a bit easier than state.
You can look that up.
Yeah, I'll
Pat.
look that up.
Thank you, thank you. And it may entail that the owner of the house has to do it, not the city. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's one thing we'll have to know.
I think it's also once a house is qualified or said to be historical, then there's a lot of limitation what that owner can do.
That's correct.
That's under the state.
That's under the state.
Yeah, that's more the state. That's where you run into the issue about the state. The state wouldn't issue a Texas historical marker, even though we know that the Sears house or whatever we want to call it was where the museum,
Mhm.
because it was moved. Other than that, it is a historical building by
Yes.
all means, but because it was moved from actually it was moved
It's
a couple of
moved
it, it
twice.
was moved twice or three times anyway, but it was moved to where it has to be something that was still on the site originally. So that's where Texas Historical Commission kind of it's more stringent, to be honest.
Okay.
My dad was on the historical.
Okay. Well, then, and it might be better to go the easiest road first, which would be the national.
National.
A listing in the
So we
national.
need to know the whole 9 yards on that.
Pardon?
We need to know the whole.
Yes, we do.
the
Yeah, we
whole
do.
thing, because what we're talking about is, okay, now we've got buildings and maybe even a district that we're calling a historical thing, which has protections. So then, does that let us go in there and just start, cracking the whip and saying,
But we don't know.
Right.
And it says in here that.
right, that's part of what we're gonna find out.
Right.
Is if we, let's say we get some buildings designated or some kind of district, what does that do for us? Because it's after the fact, people are already building their new stuff right
Well,
there.
right.
So.
We may just have to do it, identify houses and not a district, because I don't think we have enough houses to do a district.
Right,
We do over in one area, I know for sure. I know for sure.
Which area?
Avenue B and 12. That
Okay.
whole loop right there.
All right.
very good.
Those houses, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You
that's a good
really,
point.
the Kite property, the Carter property, Luke and Willie Daly's.
Yep.
If you keep going around, okay, Charlie and Wable's. And then, going around the two houses on the end on the left-hand side, whose names, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting. And then the one on the right there, the wooden shake siding. And then when you keep going around, the house that's tucked back up in there, that's,
I'm not sure what street we're on, Kathy.
we're on C. It's that loop, it's that whole loop. That house that's tucked back up in there, a friend of mine actually used to live there.
So are you talking about that's close to Wavell's property?
It would be just off of where you know how C comes down and hits 12th and all that. If you're on C and you're looking back over here, there's that house that's tucked back off. It's actually two structures. And then if you keep coming around there, the Patterson house, that one was there. I call it the Patterson house because that's who I knew owned it at one time. It's the one that's up off of C, the fronts towards the beach, it's, see, that one was there. And then if you keep coming around, the one that's on the corner that got approved for restoration, got approved for, it's non-compliant, but they approved it. They got approved for the little second story part and
Yes.
everything. That one counts. And then those two cottages right next to it, those two cottages there. And then the Hager property across the street, the one main structure there for sure.
Right.
And then I think even the little, just next to her, that one of the dog cottages or that's what one of those
Right. Black
was
Dog.
there. And so I forgot, I counted it up one day. It's like 12.
Okay, well, we might be able to do
It's
Part of it.
it's a number.
as a historic, area at
Yeah.
some point.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, it's pretty
Okay.
neat when you really start
Yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
neat little houses in there.
looking at them.
Okay, well then I guess, Does anybody else have anything? We can do our homework. And then let's come back and actually talk next time about a couple of design guidelines or regulations. I don't know what we want to call them, to put in an ordinance. What's the proper term, Rick?
I mean, it just should be development regulations.
Okay,
To be included in a zoning.
right, right.
Yeah, it depends on what you guys come up with. I mean, it could be architectural, it could be
Okay,
density, height,
Lighting.
whatever you guys decide.
Meeting date.
pardon?
If we are going to move on to the next one, if we could make sure we all have the
Yes.
same meeting dates.
So are we going to continue to meet on the second Tuesday?
I'd like to. And what is everybody?
Good to me.
Okay, that's fine for me.
Yeah,
Barney, how about
fine
you?
for me.
Second
Fine.
Tuesday?
As opposed to the third,
That would be August the 9th.
August 9th. All right.
Well, I don't write it up on both things. Bad about dates.
All right. Okay.
And I would just like to say, I would encourage us to also get out there and talk to people and see what their thoughts are, the citizens. Especially maybe the citizens in some of these neighborhoods, see what they would like, to see.
Yeah.
Just because it helps us, help us with ideas.
And this is still a goal and objective with the comp plan too. So it's going down that path as well for the community to chime in and participate as those public forums still. So that'll be ongoing.
And the big portion of that where they present everything is going to be August.
I was gonna say, when is the next forum?
Mid-August. The next forum, we added one additional one. So that's going to be July 28th. And then I'm going to be lying if I tell you a date, but I'm thinking it's August 18th.
Okay.
For kind of that's their big meeting when they're kind of planning on presenting all of
Okay.
their
All right.
findings and not their
Some
final
of the
product,
reports,
but the big goals of the comprehensive plan.
Okay. All right. Well, if nobody has anything else, I am going to adjourn this meeting at 4.
Nope.
3:55.
Excuse me, thank you. 3:56.
Close enough.
Groovy. All righty. I know nobody says groovy anymore. I used to say groovy,
Pete the cat.
I got this on, I can send it to
The whole
you. I
kid
got
book
it
that they
on,
use groovy.
a very- Yeah, I did. I did it digital.
Well, that's good.
Pete the cat, look at us.
Okay,
But I have to read it on my-
I'll make a little note. Pete,
You have it printed off.